Up until this point, I've been fairly critical of Black Bolt and White Flare's competitive sets, but after spending several nights alone in the dark sweating heavily while poring over the dual sets cards list, I realized that just about 10% of the 172 cards have any chance of impacting the meta. To anyone out there who thinks 17 out of 172 is a good number from a brand new set, think about it this way. 90% of the cards are more useless than Hop and Sword and Shield. All of this is a long-winded way of saying how it kind of blows that Air Balloon is the best card in Black Bolt and White Flare. Previously seen in Sword and Shield base set, Air Balloon rotated out of standard in March 2023. Like the McRib, just over 2 years later, it's back. The most obvious comparison to Air Balloon is Rescue Board. Except where Rescue Board is almost always a retreat cost reduction of 1, Air Balloon is always a reduction of 2. So every deck running Rescue Board will now swap it out for Air Balloon. As for Latios EX and Beach Court, they still have a place. Remember that Air Balloon is a tool, so if it's attached to somebody, you can't put Bravery Charm on them or something. Though if Beach Court is the best stadium for your deck, you might have bigger problems in life. And Latios is simply a bench sitter that can be grabbed with a nest ball. Though Latios only reduces the retreat cost of basics, not evolutions, and it is a 2-prize liability. If you're wondering about uses for the balloon, apparently it can be used for therapy. That being said, I don't recommend Googling balloon therapy with safe search off, which is clearly something the Pokemon Company didn't do before printing this Wigglytuff. Anyways, any Pokemon with a 2 retreat cost benefits from balloon therapy. Whether that's Goldengo, Grimmsnarl, Zekrom, Electric, Revavroom, or any of the other 100 potential cards, Air Balloon is awesome. And don't forget that it's also useful in decks with 1 retreat cost Pokemon, as it allows you to get around something like Gravity Gemstone or the seldom used Calamitous Wasteland. Yes, Air Balloon is my #1 pick for best new Black Bolt and White Flare card is boring, but it's also the card that will improve the most decks. Because I'm a firm believer in single prize decks, as well as being barefoot in public, Brave Bangle gets my #2 spot. Attach it to a non-EX Pokemon, now its attacks deal 30 extra damage to EXs. Just like how Air Balloon Wally Pip's Rescue Board, Brave Bangle effectively replaces Defiance Band in every single prize deck. Now instead of having to wait for your opponent to beat you off to deal bigger damage, you can be tied on prizes or winning and get that 30 damage boost. If you watch my best decks early preview video, you'll know that Ethan's Typhlosion, Testicle Festival Dipplin, and Roaring Moon have been the main benefactors of Brave Bangle in Japan. But as people in the comments pointed out, Spidops, Azumarill, and even United Wings get stronger. I'm not saying single prize decks are going to rule the format thanks to this one card, but everyone running around with the X's should be more worried. Typhlosion can get it up to 320 with the Bangle and 1 Victini, Dipplin can deal 130 damage twice before adding in Kieran or Black Belt's training, Roaring Moon can one-shot anybody at the end of the game, Spidops can hit that magical 210 number, Azumarill can reach 260 and one-shot Goldengo, and while it's a little riskier, United Wings can follow the same trajectory as Roaring Moon, taking big one-hit KOs once the discard pile is filled up. Like a paternity test, we can try to deny it all we want, but the end result is inevitable. Jellicent EX is going to be the most impactful Pokemon in Black Bolt and White Flare, and the sooner we accept our new Jellyfish Overlord, the sooner we can find ways around it. Put Jellicent in the active, now your opponent can't play items or tools thanks to its ability. Unlike Badoo, which is an attack that permanently locks their items during their turn, Jellicent can be bossed out of the active, thus reactivating your items and tools. This could also mean we see an uptick in Iron Bundle usage, as its art is unsearchable and its ability forces your opponent to switch out their active. Unfortunately, Jellicent could always include a copy of Relicanth, allowing it to copy Frillish's attack, which does 20 damage and item locks. Or, they could just have 2 Jellicent in play, rendering your spicy Iron Bundle useless. While we all scoffed at the idea of pairing Jellicent with Gardevoir, after all, why does Gardevoir need a stage 1 that doesn't take one-hit KOs? At least so far, Japanese tournaments have shown us that it's a strong combo. Because Gardevoir players move far too quickly on Pokemon TCG Live, this new version slows things down. Now they can Psychic Embrace the Jellicent twice, fully heal it with 2 Munkidori, send 40 damage to your side of the field, then hit your active for 80, all while you can't use items or tools. The following turn, they can retreat the Jellicent, removing 1 or 3 Psychic Energy in the process depending on whether they have Air Balloon attached, charge up a fresh Jellicent with either 2 or 4 energy, heal it again with multiple Munkidori, then hit your active for 80 or 160. And once again, you can't play items or tools because the Pokemon Company hates us. So yeah, no matter how hard we collectively clench our cheeks and try to wish this fish out of existence, it's going to ruin your day more than I-knowing them into a boss's for game. I guess the only bright side is that Jellicent isn't as splashable as Badoo, and it does give up 2 prizes when it's knocked out while also being weak to Dark. Grimmsnarl's one of the top decks right now, though it couldn't stop Guardy at NAIC. And who knows, if Jellicent does become super popular, maybe Zoroark will finally live up to its potential. Remember what I always say, it's a travesty that we don't have an ice-type Miltank who creates ice cream. Also, the order of these top 10 lists outside of the first 3 really doesn't matter. They're all mostly interchangeable, each deserving of their inclusion. But their power levels all vary based on the deck and how the meta shapes up. Case in point, Electric. While it's effectively a reprint of the old Electric from the black and white era, you won't be able to use the previous version in Standard like you can with Air Balloon. If the ability of being able to accelerate 1 lightning energy from your discard pile to any one of your bench Pokemon seems familiar, that's because we just had it with Flaffy. And yes, these 2 cards are also identical, sharing the same hit points, attack cost, attack power, and retreat cost. Because if you get held back a couple of grades, the Pokemon Company believes in reusing your old homework. Since Flaffy didn't rotate until March 2024, that means it was paired with Miraidon, Iron Hands, Mew, and Electric Generator. Now that the same effect is back just over a year later, it can be paired with Miraidon, Iron Hands, Mew, and Electric Generator again. Yeah, the developers saw the downfall of Miraidon even with Magneton and Generator in Standard and decided they couldn't have that. But the addition of Electric doesn't solve the biggest problem facing Miraidon, the lack of someone who can take big one-hit KOs. That's where the new Zekrom EX comes in. While it sucks at the beginning of the game, dealing just 130 damage for 3 energy, Zekrom becomes a powerhouse at the end of the game. For each prize card your opponent's taken, Zekrom's attack increases by 50 damage. So when they've taken 4 prizes, you can one-shot a Dragapult, Grimmsnarl, Charizard, or Gardevoir. And when they've taken 5 prizes, you should be able to knock out most Mega Evolutions come September. The Joltik version of Miraidon isn't going anywhere though. In fact, you can kinda combine the two using Joltik to get energy into play early. Then when somebody gets knocked out, accelerate that lost energy with Electric, powering up other attackers. Joltik also makes it easier to include Pikachu EX with its 300 damage attack. Or you can play Magneton, who blows itself to attach 3 energy from the discard pile to your lightning Pokemon however you want. Since Electric and Zekrom go together like peanut butter and toast, I'm placing both of them in my number 4 spot. And I definitely didn't make this decision because I wanted to include 11 cards on the list. It's totally because they both make Lightning decks featuring Miraidon relevant again. Purely for synergy, at number 5 we have Reshiram EX. Just like Zekrom, Reshiram does 130 base damage for 3 energy, adding 50 more damage for each prize card your opponent's taken. This gives any decks with Fire Energy Acceleration ways to deal with Stage 2s, as well as Mega Evolutions who arrive on September 25th. Unfortunately, where Zekrom does 30 damage to itself with Voltage Burst, Reshiram's Blazing Burst forces you to discard an energy. What I won't be doing here is including Emboar in my top 10 list. Basically a Fire-type Baxcalibur, Emboar allows you to accelerate all basic Fire energy from your hand to your Pokemon however you want. Except where Baxcalibur has Chen-Pao to take big KOs, Emboar doesn't really have that perfect partner. And running Stage 2 energy accelerators like Baxcalibur in this day and age has become a little too risky. Thankfully, there is another, Armarouge. By pairing Armarouge with Ethan's Ho-Oh EX, you can easily get energy into play, which you then move up to your active with Armarouge's ability. During my video, I found that this archetype lacked late game power. When Reshiram arrives, it'll have someone who can deal up to 380 damage. While I personally prefer Regigigas since it can one-shot Dragapult and every other Terra, it doesn't deal with Grimmsnarl. And Mega Evolution Pokemon aren't Terras, meaning Reshiram will be your answer to them as well. In case you forgot, Mega Evolutions will give up 3 prizes. But unlike Mega evolving in the XY era, where your turn ended unless you attached a Spirit Link, they just evolved from the Pokemon's normal pre-evolution. Yes, it's weird, and yes, we are getting Mega Evolved Basics, which could have over 300 hit points. Whatever the case, Reshiram's a heavy hitter for a deck that definitely needs one. While this one might bug you, I'm putting Genesect EX at number 6. Golden Go has always been a safe pick for anybody wanting to get consistent wins. With Black Bolt and White Flare, Golden Go's consistency intensifies. Put Genesect in play, then activate its ability to grab any 2 Metal Evolution Pokemon from deck. So now all you have to do turn 1 with Golden Go is ensure you have at least 2 Gimmighoul down, then Genesect basically acts as a Hyper Aroma, grabbing 2 of your evolutions. Genesect's also useful in Baby Maker Metang to find your Metang, Steven's Metagross to find your Metang and Metagross, and well, that's about it. I'm basing a lot of these rankings on Japanese tournaments through the first few weeks. At least so far, Archaludon hasn't really been paired with Genesect, which I find a little curious, but I guess the reasoning is that Archaludon wants energy in the discard pile. Ultra Ball achieves that, so why would you need Genesect, a potential 2-prize liability who only does 150 damage? I guess what I'm trying to say is that Genesect really only improves Golden Go. So why did I put it this high up? Moving on to number 7, we have Hilda. You kids don't know this, but back in my day, cards like Arven, Irida, Colress's Thicacity, Jacques, Brock Stouting, and Hilda never saw play. Nowadays, consistency supporters that grab a couple of cards are everywhere. Play it, go grab any evolution Pokemon plus any energy card. If you're under item lock from Badoo or Jellicent or Tyranitar or Frillish, this is perfect for a lot of different decks, including Dragapult, Typhlosion, Golden Go with Dragapult, and basically any other evolution deck that runs energy. What makes Hilda better than Jocking Off or Brock's Unwanted Flirting is the energy clause. Since it doesn't specify basic, you can grab any energy. So Dragapult can get Fire, Psychic, Luminous, or Neo Upper should you decide to use that as your ace spec. And single prize evolution decks with high attack costs can get Reversal Energy or Ignition Energy or even Team Rocket's Energy. Continuing with the whole special energy theme, we have Ignition Energy at number 8. If it's attached to a basic Pokemon, it only provides 1 colorless energy. But if it's attached to an evolution Pokemon, it provides 3 colorless energy. Unfortunately, no matter who you attach it to, Ignition Energy is always discarded at the end of your turn. With Double Turbo Energy having rotated out of Standard earlier this year, this is our closest replacement. Compared to Reversal Energy, Ignition has the benefit of working on any evolution Pokemon, not just those without a rule box. And where Reversal Energy needs you to get beaten off by your opponent for it to activate, Ignition Energy is always active. You just, lose it when your turn ends. While the smartest among us are cooking up ways to improve older decks, the ones who think Shaman blocks Dragapult pings are preparing to use Ignition Energy for evil. Since games will slow down when you have Jellicent in the active, it's safe to assume you'll be able to manually attach a Psychic Energy one turn. Then you can attach Ignition the next turn, dealing 160 damage, potentially one-shotting Raging Bolt and Dragapult if Lily's Clefairy's in play. Similarly, Espathra can use Ignition Energy to add 90 damage out of nowhere. Meanwhile, those of us who Yan Mega their energy to the Dunsparce in order to recycle it later know how many decks this helps. The new baby Zoroark can copy your opponent's active for an Ignition Energy, which I may remind you can be found with Hilda. Blissey doesn't have to worry about risking basic energy early. The Dunsparce EX can use Destructive Drill to one-shot a Mimikyu or a Crustle out of nowhere, and Tinkaton EX can beat people with its big hammer again. In a similar yet opposite vein, we have Prism Energy. Where Ignition is all about evolutions, Prism is focused on basics. Attach Prism Energy to a basic Pokemon, it provides 1 of any type of energy. But if it's attached to an evolution, it only provides 1 colorless. This is an immediate improvement over Luminous Energy and basic heavy decks. Because remember, when you attach 2 Luminous to a single Pokemon, they both lose their Rainbow effect, reverting down to a single colorless energy each. With Prism, you can attach 3 to a basic Pokemon like Terapagos EX and still use Crown Opal. Obviously, manually attaching 3 special energy in a game isn't easy, but the option exists. In addition to helping out any basic deck running Munkidori like Hopzation, as well as Terra Box decks featuring Ogerpon and Lily's Clefairy, the biggest user of Prism Energy is Ho-Oh Armarouge. Since Prism Energy counts as a fire energy, it can be moved up with Armarouge's ability. Just make sure you don't put the Prism on Armarouge as it'll lose its effect. Otherwise, Prism's much better than Luminous in this deck, allowing you the chance to use Arm Press on Iron Hands or any other attack that uses more than 1 non-fire energy. Just keep in mind that someone like Dragapult will continue to use Luminous, as Dragapult's an evolution and won't benefit from Prism. Finally, you know it and you love it when it wins you the game, but hate it if you're a Gardevoir player, we have Tool Scrapper. Same as Air Balloon, Tool Scrapper rotated in 2023 and it's returned 2 years later, just like my third ex-wife did with a child wearing a pilot's hat who's really good at Pokemon cards. In terms of tool interruption, we currently have Jamming Tower and Ruffian. No one uses Ruffian, whereas Jamming Tower is great, especially against Gardevoir. But they can just bump the tower, creating a schism in the game and reactivating tools. Tool Scrapper sends them to the discard pile, likely never to be seen again. It also doesn't hurt that Tool Scrappers are unsearchable. Honestly, you could masterfully debate which is better between Tool Scrapper and Jamming Tower for Leaf eons. Jamming Tower prevents them from using technical machines on their turn, but only if the tower sticks. Scrapper gets rid of the tools, but you have to do it on your turn. Regardless, Tool Scrapper is a welcome re-addition to Standard. I will note that some cards shown in this video may not be in the set I said they'd be in. For some reason, the Pokemon Company International is being weird with the set list, changing them from the Japanese version for seemingly no reason. Stay tuned for future videos where I'll include the full finalized set list. Until then, if you're upset that I left off Emboar or Tirtuga or any other card coming out in Black Bolt and White Flare, tell me how much you hate me in the comments. Because YouTube's algorithm can't spot the difference between positivity and negativity. And stay tuned for plenty more Black Bolt and White Flare videos as we approach launch on July 17th in Pokemon TCG Live.